Hands up if you've ever had a dream where you feel like you're falling. Okay, that's most of us. So you know what I'm on about. That feeling that quickens your heartbeat yet feels like a slow motion sensation. The type that literally feels like all the oxygen in your body is being drawn up as you fall down some dark abyss with no knowing end. Sleep psychiatrists call this the hypnagogic state. And in many ways, it can be related to the fight or flight state. That sense that you have a decision to make, that you're on edge. You might not believe me, but by the end of this talk, I want all of us desperate to feel that sensation. Now, I am a professional sprinter. I have been competing for Great Britain since I was 16 years old, and I've medaled at the Olympic Games, World Champs, European Champs, and Commonwealth Games. I am also a recent graduate from King's, so I've sat in many of the same metaphorical seats as a lot of you in this room. And it's safe to say I have felt that falling dream feeling amongst many different spheres. And if you've ever written a thesis at 5 a.m. in the morning, you know exactly what I'm talking about. What would you say if I told you the last time I felt that falling dream feeling was actually in real life? It was standing at the start line of the Commonwealth Games. I walked out into the stadium, 18,000 people, millions of fans watching at home. To add to the grandeur of the occasion, it was my first home championships, something I had dreamed of achieving since watching London 2012. And as mammoth as that moment was, the only key emotion that I can pinpoint is that falling dream sensation. That feeling that the security net from underneath me was stripped away and I was trying to find something to hold on to, but deep down, I knew I had a decision to make. I was either going to fall or I was going to fly. I was going to shrink or I was going to shine. And in those meager moments before the starter pulled his gun, that was a decision that I had to make, and it is one that has been so recurring, so defining in my career so far. To shrink or to shine? That is the question. It sounds quite prophetic and corny and a little bit Shakespearean, but I don't mean it in any stereotypical medallion type of way. Excuse the pun. To me, shining means having the bravery to break through the grey, grottier areas of our lives. To step out of that warm, cozy cocoon we call our comfort zones and be brave enough to bet on ourselves, even when the odds are not in our favour. Now, our antithesis to shrink, again, is not this physical manifestation of the fetal position. Shrink behaviour can be comfortable. It can look like the sure bet, the sure winner. But sometimes it looks like giving up on the person we knew we wanted to become when we were younger. Giving up on our larger-than-life dreams, our goals, our ambitions, moulding our potential to fit some sort of status quo. And in everyday life, it can be that time that you apply to a bag of jobs on LinkedIn just to get all your response emails and not reply to a single one because you were scared that it wasn't the right time. Or not bringing that side hobby to the forefront of your life because you're scared of what other people might think. Or more comically, saying yes to a date to that guy who has here for a good time and not a long time in their Tinder bio. As I said, the decision to shrink or to shine is one that has appeared so commonly in my career and either can present inconspicuously. And today I'm going to talk about the common signs of each and the mistakes that I've made along the way. I'm going to take us back to 2020, a year that I'm sure defined many of our lives in this room. For me, my desires were darted on making my first Olympic team and getting my dream degree from King's. And in the space of just 7 days, that was completely obliterated. The Olympics were cancelled. I was left with this dissertation I didn't know what to do with. And I was scared. At times, it felt like I was wading through the unknown just to get to this place of knowing. And it felt like, even though I didn't have any goals necessarily to dart myself towards, I just had to be bold. I trained every day in my local field as if the Olympics hadn't been cancelled. I worked tirelessly on my dissertation, knowing that I probably wasn't going to get the grade I wanted because I'd sacrificed so much of my time for the Olympic Games. At times, it felt like I was pushing this boulder up this hill that I just couldn't see the top of. All I could see was each step in front of me. but step by step, stride by stride, I was making progress, and that was all that mattered. I ended up leaving that year as the British champion over 100 meters. I also left with my dream degree from King's. And I learned so much about high performance in 2020. I used to obsess over the tiny gains, the perfect coach, the perfect setup. In everyday life, it might look like the perfect job, partner, house. But 80% of high achievement comes from an everyday approach. An everyday approach to step out into that scary, to be brave enough to shine. And that doesn't just apply to high-level sports. A study taken at the University of Sydney looked at 7,000 students and found that courage in the classroom not only predicted academic performance, but class participation, planning, confidence. That's why for me it is imperative that we are teaching young children the skill to shine. It has so many transferable successes. Now, there have been times where I've taken that decision to shine, been all heroic, done the right thing, and I'm not gonna lie, I was faking it. I was bluffing it, all smoke and mirrors. Take 2019, for example. I was having the season of my life. I just won a personal best over the 100 meters. I was ranked 4th on the British all-time list at 21 years old. And 4 weeks away, I had the World Championship trials. When out of the blue, I pulled my quad muscle. I was scared, panicked. But I told everyone around me, don't you worry, I'm gonna win. I'm in the shape of my life, don't worry. I channeled my inner superhero, my inner champion. And inevitably, the race came along. I looked up at the results screen. Can anyone guess where I came? First place, not my name. Second place, still not my name. Third place, not my name. 4th, 5th. I came 6th in that race, and I raced terribly. The decision to shine turned out to be paper thin. And what was really interesting is that sometimes it's more important to attend to our flaws than to mask them. True shining means being able to actually shine within our own capabilities, not what we think we should have. Perhaps going from injury to a first place finish was unrealistic. But maybe if I'd aimed for 3rd, 4th, I might have performed a little better. What was interesting was that on paper, all of my behaviors looked like shine behavior, something I'd want someone to take away from this kind of talk, you know? But deep down, it stemmed from a place of shrink thinking. I didn't trust or accept where I truly was. And that is what physically manifested in the race. As Catherine Schultz said, a fellow TED Talk speaker, we are desperate to have the right answers, so much to the point where we would rather assert an incorrect decision than just say, we don't know. And the thing is, you can't wish away your mistakes into non-existence because those are the things that make us human. 2 weeks later, I was at a point where I felt like I had shrunk and shrunk to the point where I couldn't shrink anymore. And I had to make the decision just to be free, to shine for real this time. I ended up running the standard for the World Championships, getting picked for my first team at 21 years old. And I learned that it is so much more important to accept who you are rather than who you think you should be. To shine, but with what you have, rather than what you think you should have. Now, the decision to shrink or to shine has also appeared in my life at times where I've been completely alone, isolated. Take the Tokyo 2021 Olympics. I just completed the 23-hour journey from London to Tokyo, 4 suitcases in hand, living the high life, looking out at the Tokyo landscape when all of a sudden I got a message from the team manager. Urgent, team meeting in 10 minutes, tell no one. And I got that feeling in my stomach, you know, when you feel like you've swallowed a stone. I felt heavy, filled with dread. And 10 minutes later, I was sitting in that team meeting with 7 other athletes, and we were told we were 7 athletes who had been pinged as a close contact for COVID. I was terrified. We were told we were facing 20 hours a day in our room alone, that we might have to fly back home, that we might not actually make the team. Now, I had a decision to make. Accept the cards I'd been dealt with, live in fear that I'd contracted COVID at this competition that I had trained my entire life for, that I would miss out on team selection, I'd miss out on fitness. But sometimes, when life pushes you into a place of complete aloneness, you have an opportunity to foster an environment of promise and potential. Even though I sat in that room with those four walls, panicking, I made sure I had an exercise bike to keep the blood flowing through my legs. I started writing my first ever play, which was published and performed in my hometown of Peckham 2 months later. And 2 weeks later, I actually ended up leaving the Olympics with my first ever medal, which was incredible. And what's interesting is that I learned so much about high performance at the Olympics, and none of it came from the track. It came from those 2 weeks in that room. That sometimes, when you take away all the distractions and you're left with the core of who you truly are, there is freedom in the prospect of knowing if you reach out towards that shine, towards that light, even if you fall, it is so much better than standing still. Now, much of my teenage life was an endless revolving door of shrink thinking, shrink behavior. I was born and raised in Peckham. My mum moved away when I was 8 years old, and she was my anchor. And I was quite badly bullied in primary school. We then moved to the suburbs. I again was a minority as a young black girl. And I had amazing friends, family, a huge thirst for high achievement. I kind of had this little feeling that people wouldn't expect much from girls who looked like me. It might come in the way that teachers would make sure that they kept me in my place, or girls would touch my hair like it was some sort of exotic material at a museum, or the whispers I would hear behind my back about my blackness. The truth is, I was terrified. Terrified that if I showed the world who I truly was, I would fail at it. It wouldn't be accepted. I was desperate to break out, to reach towards that shine, but I didn't know what that looked like. And it turns out I was not a rare case. A recent study done in 2021 found a much higher prevalence of fear of failure amongst 15-year-old teenage girls compared to their male classmates. And even more funny is that these are the girls who were actually rated as high achievers for scholastic achievement. I say all this to say that sometimes the decision to shrink or to shine doesn't come from this place of empowerment, clarity, knowing exactly what you need to do. Sometimes it comes from a place of fear, resistance, struggle. And you have to use that as your platform to catapult yourself up towards that light, that shine, because you don't know what that will manifest as. To conclude, sometimes you will make the decision to shine and it will crash and burn. And you'll want to retreat back to your dark cave and never try again. That's the risk. It's the risk that I take every single time I step on the start line. And it's the risk that you in this audience will take if you're striving towards high performance. The reality is you will never be 100% ready. Never ready to take that jump, fall into the dark abyss, feel that falling dream feeling. These are the sensations our brains are literally designed to protect us from. But a bet on yourself is always guaranteed a 100% return on investment. So feel that scary, feel that jump, feel that shine. You don't know what that will become. Never let your fear determine your future. Now, I want to end on my favorite quote by Nietzsche, which is, "Courage, however, is the best slayer. Courage which attacks, slays even death itself. For it says, was that life? Well then, once more." Thank you.